like to join me on page 361, enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and verse 4. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Verse 1. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Rejoice and
I feel my age. I feel really
What's the difference between entering and coming in?
More deep thoughts from Bill Brennan. You're on. Stumble there. Please ignore the stumble. Welcome. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, you're welcome here. No matter how you came here, if you came alone or with others, you're welcome here. No matter who you love or how you speak or whatever your abilities, you're welcome here. Whether you come here with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here. Whether if you come with an open heart and with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, then you are indeed welcome here. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans, a congregation gathered in love since 1883. I'm having trouble with all these 18s and 19s and 20s. To seek wholeness and work for justice in the world. I'm Shafia, and my pronouns are she and they. If you are a visitor, we would invite you to raise your hand so that we can greet you. Yay! Welcome. Now, if you are unable I want to make a few notes about accessibility. If you would like to we would like to ensure that everyone can hear the service in its entirety. If you are unable to hear any of the answers, please wave your hand, and when we will do our best to speak up. While we are in the fellowship hall, please take note of the restroom locations. Restrooms are located past the elevator, that's this way, and down the ramp. There are more accessible elevators can be found by taking the elevator up to the second floor. There are also ones that go farther down the ramp, and there are ones if you go down the hallway. So either way, either down the ramp to the hallway, or you can go to the elevator and up to the second floor. We have folks in our congregation who are disabled, immunocompromised, or love and care for those who are. We welcome and center masking up as a practice of community care. If you'd like a mask, you can find some in the back or over here by the where we have different resources. They're over there. So we encourage people to get them if they need them. If anyone of any age would like some activities, fidgets, or toys to help them be more present in the service, you can find pew packs for different ages, age ranges on the table near the main entry door. Please help yourselves and return them after the service. After the time for all ages, this morning, children are welcome to follow our teachers to the kids' room, or they're also welcome to stay here with their parents. The kids' room is set up during Sunday services for guided learning and play about our UU values. It is out the door, over here, and behind us to your left, and all the way down the hallway, and then you make a right and go all the way down the hallway, and you will find it on your left.
Oh my goodness.
1 second. So you can find a member of our RE team. There's Michael over there and Lane over there. And if you want to learn more about the RE team, you can, which is the religious education team that serves youth and children. You can find out more about it there. We are a lay-led congregation, and on Sunday mornings we ask you ministers, other religious professionals, leaders from our social justice organizations, and our own members to be voices of hope and courage and spiritual or intellectual transformation from our pulpit. Our worship leader today is Melissa Gamble. Yeah. So now I'll ask you to please rise in body or spirit and join me in the chalice lighting for our heritage, and join me in reading the words that you will find in your order of service. Melissa will light our chalice. As we light the chalice, a container of air, earth, and fire, this ritual of our faith reminds our subtle and crashing about beings that we are part of a collective, a community of care and connection, courage and questions, sacred and sacred together. Today we gather with intention and creativity, releasing what we must, shaping what we will, in a space made possible by generations of community care and the courage of connection.
You'll turn to page 318 in your gray hymnal. We're just saying we would be one.
Now is the time for all ages, so we invite those who are young and young at heart to join Fatima, who's going to read a story around the carpet circles. Bear with us as we arrange things very quickly.
With no creatures at all, just a musty old, dusty old, tumbled down mall. Then along came Dakota, the tiger cub, who saw the tumble down mall and imagined a zoo. But to build a new zoo takes a mighty big crew. Two rough and tough rhinos arrived with a crash. And they swept out the mall, and they bulldozed the trash. A cricket jumped in, and then an ant, then a bee, a rhinoceros beetle, a wasp, and a flea, a spider, a mantis, a moth, and a fly. We can help build a zoo, buzzed the fly. Let us try. Not a chance, said the rhinos. You bugs are too small. You're pests, you're annoying, you don't come at all. Or you don't count at all. 3 lemurs rolled paint on the walls and the stairs. 4 oryx cut windows, some circles, some squares. 5 bears carved out burrows and tunnels and lairs. Is a lion there? 6 giraffes raised up towers much taller than trees. 7 bats lifted banners that flew in the breeze. And does anyone know what the banner says? I can read it. Everyone welcome.
Wait, is it on the sea?
Yeah, because it's the seal salon here. Building the seal.
Can it,
Yeah, there's
why
a
are
penny.
there
It's a really good question. Make way for the playground, 8 elephants cried. So the elephants are going down the slide. 9 moose dug a moat, 9 feet deep, 9 feet wide.
Bro, there is not a 9-feet pool in the world.
Yeah.
Is there a 9-feet pool? Bro, Jimmy.
10 crocodiles sculpted a grand water slide. They asked all of their friends to climb up for a ride. But 2 tough rhinos were blocking the way, snorting, "This is our slide, no one gets to play." Bullies. Then silently, stealthily down from the sky came the spider, the mantis, the moth, and the fly. Along with the cricket, the ant, and the bee, the rhinoceros beetle, the wasp, and the flea. One bug crept in each ear, while these snuck up each snot. While 3 snuck up each snout. Do bugs really count? We're about to find out. Can you guys tell me what's happening and tell everyone what's happening?
They're gonna sting them.
Where are they going?
Into
Into
their nose.
their nose, everywhere, yeah.
And they're gonna sting them.
We're about to find out. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 rough, tough rhinos sneezed. Chew! As into the air they flipped and they flew. The rhinos were rubbing their noses and ears, crying nearly 1,000 rhinoceros tears. "We're sorry," they blubbered, "for bullying you. We're rough and we're tough, but we don't rule the zoo." You see their tears? The animals rocketed onto the slide for an up and down, all around fabulous ride. A lot of animals. They swooped and they bounced. They looped and they pounced. Then Dakota the tiger cub proudly announced, "Our zoo is the best because everyone counts." Yeah.
Children are welcome to spend the rest of the service here with us or to visit our kids' room down the hall on the right. Thank you, Fatima, for that story. So now is the time of our service, and we enter into a time of meditation or prayer. And yeah, I just want to acknowledge and thank everyone who made this space possible, right? Who put time and effort and energy to make sure that our church can still meet. And right, I know there's like construction everywhere and it feels a little wonky. And I know this is my first time being in here and I was just like, wow, this is different. And I know we've all had that feeling, right? Just kind of, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I want to thank everyone who made it possible. I want to thank Kathy and Mary and Chris and little Cora and Charlie for greeting folks when they walk into the space, right? Yeah, I want to thank Bill, who time after time, again and again, makes sure that our hymnals look right on the seats. And how he like cleans up after every service to make sure that they're put away properly, right? So that when a new person or someone who hasn't been here for a while doesn't have to look for a hymnal because it's there waiting for them. And I want to thank the worship team, and I want to thank Dwayne to making do with this space, and Beverly and Justin and all of you for being here. Because it's hard, right? This isn't where anyone expected to be. And yet here we are. And yet you look around, you see familiar faces, you see new ones. Welcome again to our visitors. And here we are, gathered again. And I see Michael and Claudia, and I see Chris and Mary Ellen, and I see Noelle. You see everyone. And for that, let's give thanks for each other. We're still here. I see Barrett. I see names that are blanking right now because I'm kind of foggy. We're here. And so as we gather into this time of silence, let's give thanks for ourselves. For all the things that have happened in our own lives and the lives of the church, here we are. We're still here. We're still gathering at this table. And let us give thanks for that. And now we're going to enter into this time of silence. It's going to be for about 2 minutes. And yeah, let us give thanks. Join me now as we read our responsive reading found at, in your gray hymnal at page 649. I'll begin with the bold type, and you can begin with the italics, and you can go with the italics type. Give you a minute to find that. In a house which becomes a home, one hands down one hands down and another takes up the heritage of mind and heart and laughter and tears, musings and deeds.
Love, like a carefully loaded ship, crosses the gulf between generations.
Therefore, we do not neglect the ceremonies of our passage when we wed, when we die, and when we are blessed with a child.
When we depart and when we return, when we plant and when we harvest.
Let us bring our children. It is not the place for some official hand to hand them their heritage.
Let us impart to our children our knowledge and ideals. They will lose all of us as worthless and full of wonder.
Let us build memories in our children, lest they drag our joyless lives, lest they allow treasures to be lost because they have not been given the keys.
We live not by things, but by the meaning of things. It is needful to transmit the passwords from generation to generation.
Blessed be.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So, I've been thinking about seasons a lot. How the seasons remind us that change is just part of life. It's part of the fabric of life, of trees, of nature, of people, and of the communities we hold dear. Sometimes it's cyclical, or feels that way, like winter giving way to spring, spring to summer, summer to fall. And sometimes change or transition comes with sudden rupture or ruptures, moving us from seasons of ease into seasons of hardship, or from hardship to healing. Or more often, though, to many of us, it's an amalgamation of both. The worlds around us are always changing, always moving, sometimes in ways we celebrate, through small victories and quiet moments of joy, and sometimes in ways that fill us with grief, uncertainty, and makes us pause. Right? Our lives and our worlds aren't so different. We have seasons too, as individuals, seasons of growth, of grief, seasons of transition, sometimes one, sometimes many, sometimes all of them. Seasons where we know exactly where we're headed with great assurance and like certainty, and seasons where we have no idea what's going on. And sometimes there's this I don't know feeling, where you're like unclear about your voice, what you should do, unclear about what you're feeling, why you have like a feeling stirring in your stomach, in your heart, things that haven't quite revealed themselves yet so clearly. You may just have this feeling that says you need to pause and pay attention in like another way. Then sometimes we have seasons where like stepping back is good, and it's a commitment to itself, changing jobs, changing places, changing relationships. And sometimes stepping back is honoring commitment to family, or stepping away from like a role, a committee, a team, a responsibility. Sometimes it's for a season, and sometimes it's longer. But transformation, right, isn't only found in stepping back. A lot of times it happens within community, within relationships, within the ways we learn how to be with one another. And that's good, and that's okay. And that's right? Because community isn't measured by like perfect attendance. It's measured by relationships and relationality. And I think about folks in this church who have been steadily involved for years. No matter what their involvement has looked like, they've made this community what it was and helped shape it, and shape it still today. And I think about those folks who have moved away, or folks who have found another congregation, and for those who have died, they're still a part of this story. Because regardless of building, or spaces, everyone who enters or who comes in enters a community. And everyone who leaves it changes it too. And every relationship leaves its mark. And every act of care shapes what comes next. Every food delivery, every checking in, every calling to make sure that another person's okay. Every relationship leaves its mark, and every act of care shapes what comes next. And every person becomes part of this story we inherit together. It's this kind of movement, this kind of web of life that keeps living and breathing and changing, and it's passed down, right? It's passed down through the rhythm of this church calendar, the rituals we do throughout the year, time and time again, from greeters meeting new folks and greeting old ones alike, through the order of worship, through how we commemorate, how we mourn, and through how this congregation perseveres and remains time and time again. It remains. And it's passed down when someone tells the story of meeting each other years ago in a different place, meeting another person in the young adult group, and now being in your 50s and 60s. Or a service from a decade ago that pushed the congregation to think and do things differently. I'm getting all mixed up here. That makes sense. I got a little discombobulated. I'm gonna keep going.
It's okay. You're doing great.
But yeah. The church remains. Because the church has never ultimately been about the building. It's about the people who keep showing up and the ways that the ones who have left remind us that this community needs to and has to keep moving forward for the ones who will come after. And right, I haven't been involved in this church for that long, and I know there are folks here that have been here much, much, much longer. I'm looking at many tonight. And folks who were born into this congregation, and folks who remember ministers, like the one who wrote our chalice lighting for today, and buildings and traditions. And some of us only know these stories through these memory keepers and holders that pass down what has happened and how we can and must keep going. And I think about us here today and this current iteration. No matter how transient or how temporary it may be, here we are, still here, together. And I think about this church that keeps showing up despite all of the odds. And earlier this morning, during our time for all ages, we heard everyone counts. And one thing I love about the UUA worship service and our worship service here at First Church is that the time for all ages is another way of having the sermon, right? It's another way of having the moment, the overarching theme of what folks want the congregation to take away from the service. And it's a different story in a different way. And it reminds us that, like many churches, this church is an intergenerational community. Folks from all different generations and walks of lives. And different generations hearing the same words during the time for all ages reminds us that while we may hear the same words, we may notice different things and carry different experiences into it. And right, the Everyone Counts is a simple story, but it's not a simplistic one. It reminds us that every person has something to offer, that every person should feel like they belong and feel like they matter because they do. And a question I've been sitting with recently is, how do we become the kind of community where people don't just hear those words, but experience them? And because, right, saying everyone belongs is one thing, but living like everyone belongs is another. And I think that's part of what our covenant here together asks of us. not to simply welcome people into the room, but to create and keep creating a community where people are known and valued, challenged and cared for, and are able to become more fully themselves. And I think that's what I meant by bearing with one another. Not simply putting up with one another, but remaining in relationship through changing seasons. And this congregation does that quite well. Making room for one another's growth, carrying grief together, including the mourning of space, celebrating joy together, trusting that people and communities and we together can keep on becoming, because we do. And that's one of the reasons why I keep coming back to the book The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Has anyone read it or seen any of the movies?
Oh, yeah.
It's an amazing book, and I named my cats, two of my, well, we have 4 cats now. So 2 of our cats are named Shug and Avery.
Aw.
And I think one thing that makes me come back to this story is that at the center of the story is Celie. She's a Black woman whose life has been shaped by abuse, racism, silence, sexism, and she inherits stories about who she is and what she's worth, and stories that are not true. Stories that tell her that she's powerless, voiceless, and undeserving of love. But the novel reminds us that she also has another type of inheritance, the relationships of Shug and Avery, Sophia, Nettie, and others who refuse to let those stories define her or themselves. Celie becomes to inherit something different: dignity, courage, belonging, and ultimately love and self-acceptance. And she doesn't do this alone. She does this in community, and reminds us that transformation happens in community and relationships that tell us a different story about who we are, and people who bear with us through the changing seasons as we take step backs. Like, I know I haven't been around as much the past couple months. People have still welcomed me and checked on me, right? When you see people who have to take step backs for other reasons and health reasons and move and transition, still checking in on our folks, right? And yeah, transformation happens like that in community, in communities that make room for our becoming. And I really think that's what bearing with one another looks like. Not like rescuing one another or fixing one another or saying that someone needs to change right away and yada, 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 but helping one another become more fully ourselves. Because no one in The Color Purple becomes who they are alone. They bear with one another, they carry one another, and every day this community has the opportunity to become part of someone else's inheritance, an inheritance of dignity and courage and love and transformation. And every day different people make this church what it is. And it's a stubborn little church. And I mean that in the fondest of ways.
Amen.
It keeps adapting and changing. Look at this space. It may not be what we want it to be, but here we are. We have our chalice. We have a pulpit. We have a piano. We have our gong. And we have each other and our chairs. And right, this church keeps adapting. For instance, the worship script and the order of service. Things change. Some things are taken out. Some things are put on pause. Changes come as concerns are raised. And right, because we want to keep accessibility and inclusivity in mind. Wondering what it means to acknowledge the land in which this building is on. How to be more inclusive with pronouns. How to make the script flow better by changing the placements of announcements. And just as the location of coffee hour changes, so too there's a movement of this church. Expanding and questioning and breathing. It's a very live and moving thing. It keeps finding a way. It keeps becoming community. And right, I think about the interpersonal dynamics of like every community, every relationship, every group of people, right? There's arguments, there's disagreements, there's like hard moments, and yet people come back. And the church is here for people to come back to. The church is here for people to come back to. And right, and people do. And that's the beautiful thing about covenant, right? It doesn't promise that we'll never disappoint each other, that we'll never make each other annoyed or angry or be like, what's going on? What you doing over there? It promises we'll keep trying and keep striving. And for those keeping steady, so people who have a place to go to, we say thanks and we give you gratitude. And right, most of the work of keeping a community afloat, it feels ordinary, it's quiet, it's not always recognized, and yet those ordinary acts allow extraordinary things to happen. And I think one sermon that really draws me from the past couple of years that I've been here is, do you all remember early last year, there was like our first like Pearls of Wisdom service. It was Glenn, Miss Glenn, Kathy. Am I forgetting anyone else? Does anyone remember the service I'm talking about? Yeah, and those stories really remain with me today. Anyone remember Glenn singing It's a Wonderful Life? Oh, yeah. It's a powerful moment. It's a powerful moment. Extraordinary things happen here in this ordinary place. And I also want to acknowledge that, right, intergenerational spaces are hard to come by these days. And yet, on Sundays, here we are. In whatever configuration of people, of visitors, of members, of friends, we see elders teach and share their stories. We see young people and children greet us at the door, ring the gong and teach their stories. We see celebrations for every occasion. We see communal tears and laughter abound. We learn from each other, we inherit one another's stories, and they become part of the communal fabric of this place as in this community, not this physical place. And yeah, right, I think we have to be honest too, that like community is messy, that again, we like mess up, individuals, community decisions, sometimes we misunderstand each other and all of that stuff. And I think, right, it's important to remember that if we really believe everyone counts, then we have to keep asking who isn't here and whose voices we haven't heard. Right? And I feel like this community keeps asking those questions, right? Has anyone been to one of the anti-racist trainings or been through one of the conversations after church? Folks going to support different communities. All of the different ways people keep asking questions and asking these questions, which are really important ones. And while I don't think any congregation gets this perfectly right? I think there's something sacred about how this community continues to grapple with it anyways. Committing to anti-racist trainings, committing to showing up at TNO, committing to showing up at whatever community events and making sure people know that First Church is here and supports them. Committing to come together to keep the community intact through thankless work and budget conversations and trying to figure things out with rain and all of that good logistical stuff some of us don't see. And right, I see folks here continuing to ask how we can make more room for more people, continuing to apologize when we get it wrong, continuing to learn and change. Because conflict isn't always a sign that a community is failing. Sometimes conflict is what happens when people care enough to keep trying to become something better together. And that's what growth asks of us. It asks humility. It asks listening, it asks courage. It asks us to recognize that welcoming isn't a destination we reach when we've done enough growing and trainings and community work. It's a practice we return to over and over again, to strive to welcome, to practice being welcoming, to feel welcomed ourselves. We don't need perfect communities. We need communities willing to keep becoming time and time again. We need this church who asks difficult questions and striving and continues to strive to widen the circle. This church and communities like it that say, we got that wrong, and yet we're gonna try again. Amen. And right, maybe that's what bearing with one another means. Not that every season will look the same, not that we'll always agree, not that everyone or everything or every place or every building stays forever, but that forever how long our lives overlap, we carry one another through the change and the transition, holding one another tightly as members become sick and loved ones struggle and people we hold dear pass on. And so this community remains not stagnant, but on the move. Again, through the stories that will keep being told as children become adults, young adults become older adults. New people will arrive, some people will leave, some will return, and through it all, we'll continue doing the ordinary, the sacred work of building a community by bearing with one another. Amen. Let it be so.
Hi everyone, it's me again. Hello. Thank you, Melissa. That was really wonderful. I felt very moved by that. I want to say that as you use, generosity is one of our shared values, and we agree to cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We understand that generosity is a spiritual practice that connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. All are welcome to practice here, all are welcome here, whatever your financial circumstances. We now invite you to practice the art of giving by placing an offering in the collection plate as they're circulated, and by using the information in your order of service, if you choose to give electronically, or by joining us in serving this community in a myriad of other ways that we'll discuss in a moment. gratefully received. Let us acknowledge these gifts by reading together the words in your order of service. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world.
Giving in the offering plate and pledging are part of how we steward this congregation. There are countless other ways to serve, build community, and share our love with the rest of the city. Amy and Kevin, yes. Amy and Kevin have announcements to make about how you can share our love with the rest of the city.
Good morning. Good morning. A few weeks ago, a few of us were able to go to the screening of Gaslit, which is a documentary about Cancer Alley produced by Jane Fonda and has some of our friends in it, Joy and Joe Banner. And on the 25th of July, there's another screening at Whitney Plantation. You need to go to Eventbrite to sign up for it. It's free. And they're also, beforehand, if you would like to take a bus tour of St. Charles, St. John, the Baptist Parish, and retrace the route of the 1811 slave revolt. They're doing that earlier in the afternoon and then meeting at Whitney for the movie at 4:30. So I'm gonna leave these on the table over there. And the 25th is also Joy and Joe's birthday.
It's tomorrow, right?
Next Saturday.
Today's the 19th.
It's okay, I forget what day it is too.
I think it's appropriate to acknowledge two things since we're an anti-apartheid congregation. And usually Dwayne is like running to help. Thanks, Dwayne.
We're the sleep of the club.
I'm one of the tall members. So. All right, so there's one big development that is positive. The House of Representatives, the majority of the Democrats voted to withhold funding to military funding to Israel, including our own Troy Carter. So that's something to be acknowledged. But speaking of gaslit, those of us who have been fighting the fascism, whether the ICE here in this country or the fascism in Israel and the apartheid in Israel, it is it's psychologically it's challenging. You know, we're gaslit, and if you feel like you're going crazy sometimes fighting this, that's normal. So Troy Carter, he votes for, probably knowing that it's going to fail, but he did vote for it, and this is his statement. And of course, his statement is for his donors. So he's basically wants to assure them these are his, local donors that support the apartheid. And I'm just going to read you the first sentence and the last sentence, which of course you all know are the most important parts of a statement. He says, "I have always supported Israel's right to defend itself against Hamas and other terrorist organizations that threaten its people." That's the first sentence. The last sentence is, "I firmly state that the policies of the Netanyahu government cannot continue." The psychological assault that I feel is when I'm still hearing at this stage, at any stage, Palestinians referred to as terrorists. So I say to my fellow activists, if you're feeling that assault on you, here's the question that you need to ask them, that we need to ask anybody who continues this. What's your mission? Thank you.
And with that, we ask that everyone please stand by your spirit and join us in our chalice extinguishing, which is in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now for our closing hymn and your gray hymnal number 131.
I'm also going to sing
There's a lot of papers up here. Righty. And for benediction. What keeps you coming back to First Church? And what makes you hope others will too? Because this church keeps breathing, it keeps living, it keeps moving, it keeps grappling, it keeps changing, it keeps finding ways to strive to welcome. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't, sometimes we have to apologize, sometimes we have to listen, and sometimes we have to change. And yet First Church keeps moving, it keeps finding a way. It keeps finding a way to become and keep becoming First Church, because love continues to guide us. Go in peace.
I know. But yeah, I think we should share with the congregation all of them that are happening everywhere. There's people who live in different places, whatever. Okay, do you want to do something with that? And do you have a flyer that has everything on it, or do we, or you want me to help you look for a flyer? I'm not sure what we do.
I think that there is an electronic